right, welcome ASLers to another Tactical Tuesday discussion. This week is going to be something special. First of all, we're going to cover a defensive fire situation that happened into a game, one of my favorite scenarios, S6, and it kind of fell into itself, and then I recognized it for what it was, like, hey, this is kind of interesting. This might make a decent discussion. Anyway, the first 20 minutes or so is the discussion of this defensive fire incident or option that you might have. Is knowing if you're going to have to fire subsequent first fire, maybe even final protective fire. Follow the discussion. It's pretty interesting. And tell us what you think's down below, if you've ever done it before or whatever like that. The next part is discussing Dutch Trucks, the game of the month, the preliminary, essentially deconstructing the scenario. I watched the game and it was like over by turn 2, and that was it. It's like, it doesn't seem to sound right for a starter kit scenario. I mean, there might be some dogs in there, but this seems kind of odd. So I was looking at the scenario, and then I realized that maybe some of the players that might be playing it don't take into consideration all of the options they have to take care of the victory conditions. I mean, that's what it's all about, is victory conditions. And the reason why is because I looked at the OB for one or both of the sides, and something felt kind of odd to me. And if you have S77, you take a look at it. You look at the scenario OB and the victory conditions, lay out the chart. You could see the map if you don't want to get your maps out on Scenario Archive. It has the map right then and there, which is actually an error printed on the map on the MMP card. You'll have to, the red area isn't what it's represented, but I think the hex road designations is correct from my understanding. So with that in mind, take a look at the OBs, check it out. Keep it in mind while you watch the video and see if you're quote right about the situation. Another special thing we have, I've included a video of the Igor and Dmitry from Moscow, Russia, about their ASL club, their usage of the scenario of the month process. They have submitted, their club has submitted a number of log files for us to use and go over. Almost every single game of the month for quite some time has had some Russian replays in those particular games, from Alexei, Dmitry and Igor, of course, and Fedor, and a lot of other players in the Russia. So they've helped a lot. They're a lot of great guys. Their strategies offer something that you might want to take a look at. They're very refreshing, and they've helped a lot, not only for their customers and their players in their region, but the players that watch Tactical Tuesday. So ASL, SK, and ASL is not a localized game. It is a global game, and you can find global opponents with varying skills and varying perspectives on the game. That's what we're here for, is different perspectives on the game. Thanks a lot. Enjoy the videos. Write your comments down below on whatever you want to write them on. All right, thanks a lot, and we'll see you at the end.
Hi, Steve, and all of the subscribers of the YouTube video channel Wrestling with Stu. I'm Dmitry.
And I'm Igor.
And we are co-owners of Brower Games Wargaming store in downtown Moscow, Russia. In this video, we want to show our gratitude to Steven and all of his efforts for popularizing Advanced Squad Leader Wargame. We also want to say thanks for these fantastic t-shirts he made for us. We send them to all participants of our ASL All Russian Division, our ASL club that contributes greatly to the scenario of the month of ASL Scenario Archive website. And we also want to say thanks to the team of ASL Scenario Archive, Dave and Martin, for creating and contributing such a great website for all ASL players all across the world. So play Advanced Squad Leader, guys. Keep it going. Thank you, Steve.
Please participate in ASL Scenario of the Month
Yes.
program.
Yes.
We are very grateful. As far as I remember, we came with the idea of uniting of our customers all over Russia. Many of them are buying ASL products from our shop, and look, from the start, whole one shelf,
Yes.
one box is reserved for ASL products. There are a lot of them, but right now not so many as usual. So there are many players, ASL players, customers of our shop in Russia that are literally alone in their cities, towns,
far away from Moscow.
Yes, and we have had an idea to
gather them all into the club.
So the idea of ASL Scenario of the Month, which is edited by Stu.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was like
perfectly fit for our idea. So
ideal solution.
Yes. There is always a scenario that everyone may play, may analyze logs of previous games and prepare for the next game. And Steven also analyze these logs every Tuesday.
Yeah, and we are very proud,
Yes.
Stu, when you use our logs. Great idea, because every novice and not so novice player can simply
dive deeply.
Can get lost in the ocean of ASL scenarios, and Scenario of the Month is a really great idea.
Yes.
Stu, thank you very much for these wonderful t-shirts. We are sending to you photos of the members of our club, of our Discord channel. We've asked them to
take their pictures with these t-shirts. Yes, so everyone watch Stu channel, learn to play ASL, Tactical Tuesdays. See you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, I got a couple things I'd like to cover today, but again, if you guys have any questions, if you guys have situations you want to go over or whatever, let's hit that off the bat first, because that's probably what's on your mind primarily. So we could hit that, and then we'll head on to some other stuff. So if anybody's got any questions or comments, something that we did in the past, may not necessarily be something that you've done, but something you saw in the past or saw somebody else play and had a question about it. Questions should always be coming up in your mind when you're seeing other people play, because you should always be trying to compare yourself to what they're doing and maybe how you would perform that action or something like that. I had a couple of, I was watching Jay last night. He was playing some Romanian Allied Minor, Axis Minor, crazy city fight, and he was just reflecting on his play that, you know, he didn't give his guys an ample chance to route away from the enemy, and so when he charged across the street, his guys were kind of screwed, and that's just something that he's done in self-reflection, and so he's proceeding on. I'm not sure if Jay shows up here. I think he works until later. I'm not sure, but if you see a guy called Jay Yannick, he'll be on later at night. Some of the Eastern guys that might be past your bedtime. I think he usually gets on maybe 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. He's a West Coaster. So, but if you ever get a chance to see him play a game, he always opens his room, and it's very interesting to see he and his opponent step through the rules in terms of trying to process and get it right, and that's fine, and that's exactly what you should be doing. And then as you do that, as you go along, you become more accustomed to the hurdles that you have to overcome in your self-reflection, and Jay does a good job at that. He's played some squad leader in the past, and I think he's been in the ASL scene for, I want to say, like a year, and it's exciting to see his progression, just very similarly how you guys have progressed in your approach to the game. So anyway, that's just an aside in terms of self-reflection. So if anybody doesn't have anything, I was hoping Craig would show up, but Rutan, did Craig play you in the S6? Was it you that he was playing against, or someone else?
That would have to be somebody else.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have to duplicate it because I was hoping that they came across an instance, and this will just be. Let me load up a S6 game just for the map.
Yeah, I was the freaky Spanish Civil War scenario.
Oh right. S6 Craig versus. This might be it actually. I'm not sure if it's the full log, but it's a log of SK6. I've got a bunch of them in the storehouse. This might be it. Go ahead and log in. This may or may not be it, but I'm going to advance it to the or sync rather. I'm going to advance it to a location where, yeah, this isn't exactly the same. It might be. I don't know. Oh, his 9-2 gets killed. It won't be. So don't get killed. Don't get killed. I think I'll get killed. But anyway, let me move this here. That there. The labels be gone. And we have, let me zoom in here. This is terrible. Oh, let me pop screens. So interesting situation came up. It's just like just a decision that you have to make during the game. And again, it's just something that came up kind of oddly, kind of backwardly. And so we have a situation. I want to say there's two guys there. Let's give, where's the 8-0? Oh, there's no commissar, so he's gone. I mean, he's gone. Yeah, they were using, anytime you see these labels, anybody using these labels for the thing in this particular scenario, there is no commissar because commissars don't exist per se in ASL SK1 especially. They might introduce the rule later on. I think some of you gentlemen have come across that rule. So let's say, I think he's got here, and let me use this later here. Break. Give him the demo. I think we had a squad here and -1 later. All right. So the situation was this. It was the Russian player turn. German sent some guys over here, and the situation was such. We're just going to focus on this building and this building alone, because all the other situations, no one else could affect what was going on in this particular building. As a matter of fact, I'll just delete it. Why is it scrolling? I'll just delete all these guys. So we're just going to focus on that center building. So what happened here was this is very similar to what happened, but we're going to go over. So we have a leader with a demo here. And remember, we still have control of the building as the Germans in this particular instance. It's S6. The scenario conditions, if you're not familiar with them, are capture 2 of the V buildings for the Russians by the end of the game. Control. I don't use the proper term, control. So we've got a situation where the Russians are making headway into the building. The 9-2 is outside of the building, and the MMG is controlled by the squad, not on the ground. And then we have a singular squad here. I think the Russians, let's say the Russians assault move these units here. So both units move at the same time. I'm going to assume it may or may not be in the situation, but this is the situation presenting to you. Both of these units assault move at the first time. And what options do you have as the Germans to react to that? How would you guys react to this thing in this situation, given that these are the only, consider these the only units in the game, because everybody else was like spread out over here. So the 9-2 isn't going to get a shot, and you might have had conflict over here. So the 9-2 has only these guys to focus on, and the 4-6-8 as well. So this is their own little world in this particular game, which I kind of like about this game because it splits off into little skirmishes in multiple areas, and you have to really manage your troops a little better than just firing a 88 millimeter howitzer at them. So so we assault move in here. So what are the options the Germans have? Anybody can chime in.
Is a voluntary break allowed in SK?
No.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's one thing that I've noticed, Scott, that if you have to ask, the answer is always no in SK. It just happens to be that way. It's just like, can I do you dig the rule? No, I can't do that. But yeah, voluntary break, yeah, withdraw from close combat, stuff like that. And so that is not an option. And if the Germans were to vacate this building, then the Russians would gain control of it, and with what he has in there would be difficult to regain. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So let's assume the German wants to maintain control of this building, and he sees what he sees on the map. This unit may be broken. Let's assume this unit's broken under the 9-1. So he's kind of out of it. So
you can first fire.
Okay, which units could first fire? Which units would you think would be a typical first fire in this situation?
The squad.
Okay, the squad here. And so that would be fire. He would fire on, what would be his chart be on that attack?
Should be 8 up.
8 plus 3.
3.
Right.
8 plus 3.
Because they assault moved, right? You're not going to get the advantage of him non-assault moving. Okay, 8 plus 3. Is that a good chart against 8 morale units?
No.
Do you expect a result that will, make you happy with an
Not
average?
generally.
Yeah, with an average roll. So an average roll of even 7, or 7 takes it off the chart. So 7, you'll get no effect. You have to roll 5 to get an effect on that chart. So what options do we have with the 9-2 stack? Let's say we're going to fire this unit anyway. It's a point blank shot, 4 firepower. We're going to maximize that to double to 8. So that's going to fire. What would you include, if anything, from the stack over here? Would you consider using something over on this side to attack this unit? Remember, he's got the demo charge in the back.
Well, you said this guy advanced there, so I'm a little confused. Is this
No.
advanced fire phase?
This guy. This is the Russian movement phase.
Okay.
This is the Russian movement
Yeah,
phase.
so you get another 8 shot with the leader down 1, up 1.
Yeah, this
Fire the support weapon.
Right. You could fire the support weapon with this unit, right? That make it 12. So a 12 plus 3 shots, a little more respectable. You need 6. A 6 is definitely more respectable. Plus, you have the option of getting a rate of fire with that weapon. Now, when this unit fires the weapon, what happens if the weapon doesn't maintain rate? Let's say the weapon is first fired. We're gonna split this. Let's say the weapon gets first fired. Can the 9-2 with the 4.68 fire the medium machine gun at a subsequent shot on a subsequent target? Can they combine fire groups? Okay, right?
And halved.
Right. The medium machine gun would just be under sustained fire penalties, or actually, what they call them, sustained fire.
I mean, they didn't cower and they weren't using the leader.
Right. And so yeah, you wouldn't. The leader's the problem here. So if let's say, and then so we have the machine gun, we have the squad, and that gives us a 6 for a result. Now, what would happen if we added the other squad to the fight? And the leader obviously can't fire or can't direct it, because technically he could direct it, but it won't add his modifier because another unit is firing as well outside the fire group, which would be this unit here. So what firepower would that give us on this unit here?
That's 4 more.
Right. So that would be what? 16?
Yeah.
So a 16 plus 3 would give us a morale check on a 7. Right. So that's good. That's kind of what we're looking for. Is we're looking for 7s to actually have an effect. That's why a lot of times in city fights you'll see just these massive fire charts on +3s and stuff like that, because it's, a 5, 6, or 7 something average to be rolled can give at least a morale check. Now, the 8 morale units are problematic. Yeah, they could fail the morale check, so that's like everybody else. But a 16 chart's a very plausible attack. And so would you forego this one and fire just the 8+1? So 16 plus 1's a 7. This is an 8+1. That's also a 7, right? And so you could look at it this way. What happened in the game is the player fired both of these units at a 16 whatever. I'm not sure what result he got, but what occurred as soon as he fired? You know, whatever the result was, what do you place right then and there?
Was in.
Right. How much residual are we going to place? Machine gun did not achieve rate of fire.
Well, if it was it 8? I can't remember.
Right.
Whatever half of it was.
Yeah, 16. So you got 8 firepower right here. So if the demo
Leaves open the other hacks, which
Yeah.
people will walk to next.
Yeah, so if the demo charge guy wanted to enter this hex, I mean, at least with the 16 firepower, you essentially gave yourself another 8+3 shot. Right? So
They
it's
won't walk that way.
yeah, and
Unless they're
so
down.
right, and so what option does he have if he's going to attack? If you anticipate the demo charge coming after you, right? And it was actually a very interesting result in this case. Let's say you're the Russian. He's first fired both of these stacks, and make sure when you first fire those stacks, do not mark this guy. Do not mark the 9-2 because he did not fire, and I'll tell you why it makes a big difference here. He did not fire. Okay, put the marker under him. It's very important to mark the units properly, because this particular example caught my mind because of this fact, and it can give the Germans a huge advantage. So all units capable of firing have first fired. As the Russians, where's the demo charge going in this situation? Where do you want to throw the demo charge?
M5.
Or I'm
Is
sorry.
he going to place it or throw it?
Well, he has to place it in SK.
Oh, okay.
So if you're
I'd
gonna
walk here and then here.
okay, what's your
first.
target? Boom, boom to avoid this, right?
Ideally here, because that's leader.
Okay.
Depending on where our goal is.
Right. The goal is to capture the building.
Then I would place it on the unit in the building.
Right. So the primary target in this case should be this guy, because if this guy breaks, he has to rout, and therefore you'll control the building, and then it's the onus of the Germans to counterattack. Also, this unit is 8 morale, 1 level lower than the 9 morale unit. That's going to be a 30+3 on the big boy. You roll a 7, he gets a 2 morale check, a 7, and he pins. Right, which is good because his modifier doesn't apply to squad. If he rolls a 6, then essentially he has negated the 2 morale check of your demo charge, which typically happens a lot for the demo charge. So the Russian unit. So now what happened? Now in this case, I think what happened is this is what happened exactly. Yeah, here we go. I think they cowered, so they final fired. Let's say they fired twice. Fire once, fire twice. So they final fired in this location. So the guy throws a demo charge here. What can we do as the Germans? You know, we don't like people throwing demo charges on us. What's going to happen here is the Germans.
He can do a subsequent first fire at flat 8.
At this guy right here, right?
Yep.
Do we want to add this guy in over here?
No, you do not, because then you lose the -2 modifier.
Okay. So this guy's out of it. We're going to, in this case, this is a final protective fire shot. Do we want to take a final protective fire shot? And let's look at the results of a particular roll in the final protective fire shot. So he first fired because they cowered, or subsequent first fire, they final fired. However they got there, their final fire, then the demo charge boy makes his move and throws a demo charge on you. All right. So
never happened.
So this guy here, in this particular location, If he fires on that unit and he rolls a 9 on the resolution, what occurs?
Right.
If that stack,
Are we using the leader?
yes, we're definitely using the leader in this case, right? Because we don't want this guy because we want that -2 modifier. So the leader is this whole stack is firing here at that guy, and the final fire unit has to final protective fire. So if we roll a 9, what will be the result of that attack?
Would he pin?
Who's going to pin?
The leader.
Okay. Does anybody think otherwise?
The squad.
Okay. We have a leader. We have a squad. Any other particular questions? Think about the situation going on here. Final protective fire. We rolled a 9. Okay.
We're doing morale check. It's
Right.
leader directed. So you down 2. Everyone in the stack takes a morale check.
Okay. Does the leader take a morale check?
It's leader directed.
Is the leader final
No.
fired?
Oh, no, he's not.
So the leader would not be taking a morale check. It's simply
Why not?
because
Just
he's not
curious.
marked with a final fire counter. He's not final protective firing. The units beneath him are.
Oh, cool.
And so if he rolls a 9 in this situation, which in this case is a 9 flat on the 8, that's at least get a pentash check. And so at least we'll get a pentash on the guy. But the leader is not marked with a final fire marker, therefore not subject to final protective fire penalties. And since we rolled a 9, the leader does not pin, and he can apply his modifier to the final protective fire morale check that the squad beneath him will take. And in that case, he will pass it because he needs to roll a 10. A 10 will actually pin the unit beneath him. An 11, only an 11 or 12 will break or CR the unit beneath him. So a 10 will pin the unit, won't have any effect against the demo charge guy, right? But it will only pin the squad. Because the leader's not the one. The leader hasn't fired yet at all. He hasn't directed anybody. He's just sitting there. So he's not marked with a counter at all. These guys are subject to the penalties, but his leadership modifier can apply to those. He can essentially quote morale check or direct those guys. And that was the odd situation that came up. It's like, hey, that's kind of a neat idea where both of these units can fire at a decent column over here because an 8+3 is not great, but a 16+3 is pretty decent, right? And it leaves the residual firepower that the 8-1 might want to avoid anyway, right? And then these guys ended up final firing. Maybe the subsequent fired again. It doesn't matter. The final fire is what we're looking at. So now the 8-0 can say, okay, I can go here, and if anybody fires on me, they're going to be taking a morale check. And so it's like you're getting a double morale check on these guys, because let's say he dropped the demo on this guy, and this guy on a final protective fire, and he broke in that shot, and then the demo breaks him again, you know, he's automatically a half squad. So that's kind of the situation over there. But yeah, I kind of noticed that situation where because the leader was not marked with a final fire marker, he won't be subject to the effects of final protective fire. And it will actually save. It makes a big difference in your roll, right? Because if he rolls a 9, the leader pins and the squad breaks, because the squad can't get the benefit of leader. You actually have to roll an 8 or less to actually have it, your squads not be affected, versus a 10 to have the guy being pinned. So it really makes a big difference on that particular attack. It was really kind of unusual in managing your fire attacks in this particular situation. Again, I was just spectating, and I was just watching the situation, and I watched it unfold. Because the 9-2 couldn't add in this attack, he had the benefit of not being first fired, and because of that, it allowed his unit to have better defensible strengths that would normally be had if the situation were like this. And that's where I made a well, I think I made a comment, because I think they first, maybe they did subscribe first fire, but what he did is he marked the leader, and I said, well, the leader didn't direct the fire, the leader should be on top of the counter because he didn't direct the fire. And in that case is where we saw this situation here. And that's where, oh, hey, it kind of backdoored me. It's like, oh, the leader is not subject to those penalties. And so,
Yeah, most people forget to mark it that way,
yeah.
including
And,
myself.
yeah. And so, in terms of, lots of things happen in this simple series of events. One, the defender chose a particular tack that he wanted to execute, right? That he thought would be effective. And these 2 units here, I mean, I think I would fire the 16 as well. It's pretty powerful. You could choose either way. An 8 plus 1 or a 16 plus 3 is pretty much the same chart anyway. So if you just wanted to fire this guy and then save this guy for, other fires or whatever like that, you could do that. But he decided to go with the 16 chart, no big deal. And then the demo charge guy comes over here. He actually got the demo charge off, and then it blew up, and I think the Germans rolled like 3s for morale checks. So the demo charge had no effect in that particular situation. And then the player, I don't know which player it was, said, oh yeah, I could have, just like you guys said, the objective is the building, not the 9-2. Once we get this guy gone, then the 9-2 has to kick us out, and he's only 1 squad, and we'll have 3. That guy simply has to route, and you just get control of the building. At that point, you could just back these guys up and let the 9-2 come in. And this is a very short scenario. I think this may have been turn like 2 or 3 or 4. Probably 3 or 4. It was a mid to late game. And, we got a bunch of units in the building. It's difficult to get to, and it would be difficult for this 9-2 with 1 squad to evacuate that building of Russian units. So, yeah. And, assuming the demo charge went over here and assume the dice rolls were the same, it wouldn't have had an effect. But yeah, you're right. Again, focus on your VC. What's going to win me the game? Killing this guy? Killing all the Germans? You can kill all the Germans in this game and not win. Right? It's all about building control, not about victory point gains or anything like that. You've got to control the buildings. And whatever it takes to do that, the sooner the better. And will it be easier if you drop a demo charge on this guy and they break? Sure. They'll have to route, and then these guys will probably enter close combat. But we know in close combat that, a 2-to-1 is really not super, because he's going to have a 1-to-1 against you. And, it can or a 1-to-2, and it could go south very quickly. Very quickly. You'd much rather have this guy break, simply get the hell out of my building, and then you've got control of it. You don't necessarily need to kill him. That would be a risk. If you had a -1 leader with you, that would increase your odds even more. But again, with close combat, it's still a risk. And if you end up in the game right here at the end of the turn, at the end of the game, he still controls the building. He still controls the building. If you should happen to get locked in and roll a whole bunch of 10s or some crap like that. And if it's early in the game, will probably be resolved. But if this is turn 5 of a 6-turn game, and the Russians move first, let's say you have 3 close combats, this may not be resolved. It's probably a 25% chance that German will just be there, even a half squad. He may kill one of your guys. It may not be resolved. And that might be a problem. And but like I said, the whole point of this particular example was just the making sure you mark the units appropriately, because weird things like this could develop where having this unit marked first fired or final fired makes a big difference in his subsequent usage of his leadership modifier. And it just kind of came up kind of oddly where, okay, he's final protect firing, but the leader's not. And so the leader won't be subject to that normal morale check. And his leadership modifier will always apply to the unit beneath him. And so it really saves the unit below him. Could you fire directly first, the 16, whatever, or the 8 plus, whatever? Absolutely. You could fire that shot first. And most people will. Most people will take the 8 up 1. It's a decent shot. It's a good shot. Nothing's wrong with the shot. But in this case, fire selection choice brought us to a different point, just another movement action later in that same turn. And it was just an interesting aspect of this particular scenario. I don't even remember who ended up winning. But it was pretty cool. It was pretty neat to learn that sort of thing. And you normally you wouldn't forego the -2 leadership, but you know, if you know he's got a demo charge up here, if he goes through here, you could well, first of all, if he's final, you can't fire, and if he goes over here trying to blow you up, then he could fire. Now, if these units were final fired, right, and there was 8 residual in this hex, and you wanted to go for the demo charge placement here, right? Let's just say, for instance, let's just say this guy was still, let's say the leader was final fired. Where would you take the demo charge? Would you still go here, or would you take the 8+2 shot?
I wouldn't walk into an 8 ever.
You would go over here.
I would, yeah.
This is going to be what? What's the fire attack? If this guy final protective fires on you in that location when you drop that demo, what's that shot going to be? What's this shot going to be?
It's going to be a 4 than an 8. It's
I'm
the
sorry.
same shot.
This will be an 8 up 1, right? Well, this will be 8 even.
Yeah.
This right here will be an 8 up 2.
Yeah,
And
just
and
same.
and the 9-2, if he's final fired, can't fire on you. Only this guy can. And we don't care about this guy, because if we don't care about the 8, if we've got to get through the 8 firepower, this 4+2 is not going to be much. It still could break us. I mean, we've all been broken on a 4+2. That's a simple 3 or a 4 rolled, and that's a normal morale check with an 8 morale unit. We all know that guy can break. But if this guy's finaled, we eliminate the 8 even chart. So at this point, if we're going to be facing an 8 even chart, because he's probably going to fire, especially if you throw the demo charge on him, he has to fire. You know, because if he breaks you, then, well, or if he wants to take the attack, that's one thing, but most people wouldn't. He's either taking an 8 up 2 or an 8 even, and the situation, you know, that might change. Again, it depends on what you're going for. And so it's just interesting. You're going to be facing the 8 residual firepower. Now, obviously, if the 8 residuals in the open ground, you know, you're going to be eating it. Yeah, there's almost no way I would go into 8 residual in open ground, unless it's the absolute last turn of the game. That's the only thing I can do, because that's an 8-2. You know, if you're not assault moving.
I'd move into K6 before I took the 8.
But then you've got a 4-1 here.
Right.
Right. And so right there, that'll be a 7 will be a result, an 8 up 2, a 6 would be a normal morale check. So you're still more vulnerable on the outside from this unit.
But you're taking an 8 and a 4 here.
Yeah, but the 4 up 2 we're not worried about, right? This is a 4 down 1.
Well,
This is a 4 up 2.
I worry about all shots, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. The 8 up 2 is the only thing that we're really, really, really concerned about. The 4 up 2 is going to be a much lower firepower chart, and this guy won't be able to fire on us. You know, the 4 up 2 is a very safe shot. That's like you moving. The 4 up 2 is the same thing as your unit moving in these buildings here, and the guy fires across you on the street. With an 8 morale, you shouldn't be worried about that shot. If he gets a 3, he has to roll a 3 to get a 1 morale check on you. And if he's rolling a 3, I mean, that's a great roll. There's nothing you can do about a great roll, but you have to assume he's rolling somewhere between, you know, like 4 and 10 or something like that. You know, the other rolls can come up, but you know, you can't do anything about a snake eyes or a 3. But luckily, those are at least lower. You know, the commonality, the frequency of those rolls are going to be much less. So that's why I would kind of not even really concern myself with the 4+2, because guess what? If he has to roll a 4 for a morale check, right? That 4 is the, let's see, 4, 2, 3, 4, 12, 11, 10. There's more chances of this unit breaking than you actually getting a result on your chart. So that's a win. You want this guy to fire on you. This guy you want to fire on you on a 4+2 shot. And even over here, actually, you might even want to, if you've got like another unit, you could bait a shot over here. You know, another squad, half squad, whatever. I probably wouldn't throw a leader there, definitely. But if you've got another half squad or something, you might want to bait the 4-1, because again, the 4-1, he has to roll a 7 is pretty decent. So he's going to get a result much more often on the 7 And so that's what I usually gauge my final predicted fire shots on is if I break or come very close to breaking, am I going to get a result? If I have to roll a 4 for this guy to get a result, and an 8 will pin, and 9, 10, 11, 12 will break me, I'm breaking more often than I'm getting a result. And so therefore the risk is higher on my side. And if this unit breaks, he takes control of the building. And so that a baited shot over here might get him to break for you. And at that point, you can save the demo charge, you know, for greener, quote, greener pastures or bigger fish. But you still have to get close to that fish. Same sort of thing. But if he's coming to you, let's say you do clear him out. Now he has to come in. Now you've got the demo charge in here. If he doesn't break you, then hopefully you could be able to use the demo charge. Demo charge is actually very hard to use in SK. I got to be honest with you. I've said this before, simply because you can only use it in your movement phase and close combat phase too. But that's against tanks. But it's difficult to get it off. So that's why I think demo charges are, I don't know, overemphasized in SK. Whereas a flamethrower, you could fire that thing in prep fire phase or defensive fire phase. It's really, 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 really effective. So definitely be afraid of flamethrowers. Even though the flamethrowers are destruction of 10, demo charges, you know, stone buildings, you know, you're going to get a 1 or 2 morale check. Gets a 9 morale unit. Now you got to roll 7, pretty much. You got to roll 7 on that guy. And yeah, you could pin. Absolutely. He's going to cause a little bit of damage. But yeah. So anyway, that's just kind of like the situation there. If you guys have any other comments on that, that's fine. It's just a tight situation. I think it's, you know, one to, you know, we could attack this guy multiple locations, but I just wanted to kind of bring out this sort of situation where make sure you put your counters appropriately on your stacks and mark who's fired, who's final, stuff like that, because weird things like this can happen. Say, oh, hey, this guy's safe. This guy's safe. And then you can proceed from that, because those things will be missed and slipped by and things like that. But you know, it just makes it that the Germans are much more able to defend that particular building and try to pull out a victory in that case. But yeah, this may have been super late in the game, but I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's about it. Now, like I said, if you guys have any questions, we'll go on to the next topic about this here. This essentially is the first.
Are you going over Dutch trucks?
We're gonna approach Dutch trucks. We're not gonna go the. I've only got 2 replays. I'd like to get 3 replays to see at least 3 different views on that.
I'm just interested in thoughts on our game.
Yeah, we're gonna analyze the Dutch trucks in terms of OB analysis, in terms of what we can do and what how we can manage to deal with that situation there. So it's an interesting one. So
yeah, I almost pulled it off, but I also almost got overwhelmed. So
yeah. So any other questions on this, guys? Again, first fire questions. You guys are getting pretty good at the first fires, but this was just a weird situation to me. It's like, oh, this would be a good discussion point where it actually changes the way the defensive fire and the defense and the safety of this unit in the game. So
that was this unit here. If it wasn't DM, putting another residual here would have been better.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, exactly.
It happened regardless, but
yeah. So it was a fun little game. It was great. This is probably one of my favorite scenarios. Definitely of SK1. Simply because there's a lot of good fighting, a lot of good maneuver. There's a lot of good maneuver in this one. You have to take some hard shots, and because you got to get to your destination, so it's fun.
So in our Dutch trucks game, Gabe learned that 1 residual can be really bad.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
He walked right into it and no thoughts, and just I rolled well.
Yeah, and it stays there. It doesn't it doesn't go away. The residual does not go away.
I mean, 1's not too scary, but bad stuff happens.
Right. Pretty much, we're going to discuss the problems that the Japanese are facing and the Dutch are facing this one as well. In this one, I think you have to pull out everything you can there's clues in this scenario. And again, this is sort of like deconstructing a scenario. So for those unfamiliar with Dutch trucks, the victory conditions are that the Dutch win immediately upon exiting greater than or equal to 12 victory points off of the north edge. The north edge is the top of the board where the Japanese are, and the south edge is on the bottom board where the Dutch will be entering along. And they will enter on turn 1 and turn 2. And we'll get into that in just a second. So each squad's worth 2, as we know. Half squads are 1. Leaders, yada, yada, yada. Each AFV with functioning main armament is worth 5 and 4 if it's malfunctioned. So we can malfunction 3 of our main armaments of our vehicle, and every single one of these vehicles has a main armament to malfunction. What the hell? Get that out of the way. And so, although they're all coaxial machine guns, look what they have. What are the problems that the Dutch have with their machine guns? Straight off the top, because the first thing is first is victory conditions. 4 VP if it's malfunction, right? So the more we fire, the more likely those guns are going to malfunction. You guys have seen the games where the malfunction is 12 and all the vehicles and main armaments are gone. So that's a big issue. Are these vehicles going to sustain fire their main armaments?
No.
Probably not. With a 9
Stu,
break.
I got a side question.
All right.
The VCL M196 or 1936 over here. I looked it up, and I can't figure out what the 2 means by the 18.
Don't worry about 2. The 2 is amphibious movement.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, remember 90%. These are essentially just squad ASL counters pulled in.
Well, I looked it up. I looked it up in ASL rules, and it didn't say anything about the 2 when I looked at the vehicle.
Yeah, that.
So I guess I have to know that. Besides, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's not even touched in SK. It's like the star on this vehicle here means it's reverses times 3. Well, that doesn't apply. So that star doesn't apply either, and things like that.
Thanks.
So again, that's the little things like that which can be distracting for players that the rule doesn't even cover that. And the same thing with the underlined morale factor on like 747, something like that. They don't. It's kind of here or there. So so sustained fire would be in my opinion, maybe like a desperation move on these vehicles, simply because the breakdown's a lot, and that's a victory point. If you think you can, if it's worth saving, like if you're definitely going to be in dire straits versus some Japanese, then you might want to take that risk, because then even if you get off, it's still worth 4. So it's really a 20% decrease in VP. You can get a squad or 2 off, but right in the beginning is all of your vehicles are breakdown 11. So that's one thing you have to make sure that you keep in mind in terms of target selection. So so the special rules in this one here, PTO is in effect, obviously with the palm trees, including light jungle, which means there's dense jungle actually, but actually probably nice for the Japanese. And then after turn 1, each non-recalled Dutch AFV, which is all of them because they're all armor fighting vehicles, must make a dice roll less than or equal to 8 in order to move. So that's sort of like a bastardized version of platoon movement in ASL. There's a -1 dice roll modifier for each AFV it is adjacent to at the start of the movement phase. So if the AFV fails the dice roll, it cannot move, and if in motion, must immediately stop. So they have a movement restriction. If 2 vehicles, essentially if you move 3 vehicles together, or they're grouped together, let me put them on there. So if we're doing something like this, if our arrangement is something like this, then we have a decent chance of moving. We need to roll a 10 each one of these vehicles. Now the fun part is there's one thing that you have to take into consideration in this particular scenario is reading scenario special rule number 2. It says there's a -1 dice roll modifier for each AFV it is adjacent to at the start of the movement phase and not start of its movement phase. So that makes a big difference. Why does that make a difference? Well, how many vehicles are next to one another in this situation over here in EE4? If it's the Dutch turn, I'm going to move a vehicle. They're not in motion. I'm going to start him up. I make my dice roll. What's the modifier?
-2.
-2. So I roll a 10. He starts up and he goes up 3 hexes and stops and he's done. I want to move this guy. What's his modifier?
-2.
-2, because he started next to this guy. That should have been made a little bit more clear in there, because a lot of times most of ASL is not a memory thing that you have to remember. Because, you know, when this guy's moving, there's going to be tons of firing. There's going to be tons of interesting things happening. He could shoot at some shit. He can malfunction his weapon. You're going to be distracted. You might move squads over here next to draw fire. You might move guys up here. You know, move another tank over here. Come back over here late in the game because these are just trucks. They move slowly. And then move this guy and think he's only got a -1. ASL typically doesn't do that, to have you do a memory check on that sort of thing. But again, when you bastardize the rules, this is what happens. So you might want to put a little memory chit marker, you know, next to these guys. Just put -2 DRM. And then
I
just
think another thing to remember is these are hindrances. They're like bushes, the
Right.
huts.
Right.
And that's really important in this one.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And yeah, we'll go over those in just a second. So in this case, you have to remember these are -2. So if this guy ends up over here and this guy ends up over here, now they all need 8s at the beginning of the next term. So it's a semi-bastardized version of getting them to move. I don't even know if they have radios. Yeah, these guys do have radios, but I think this guy doesn't have a radio. Particular, the circled R means he doesn't have a radio. So again, a memory tool. Not a big fan of that, to be honest with you. But in terms of the scenario special rule, it's the start of the movement phase and start of its movement phase, and there's a distinction there, and you will find distinctions of that later on in other facets of the rules. Sometimes you have to make sure that whether you're talking about a specific unit or a specific time in the phase. So those guys are there. Let's say these guys are coming on. Now, all these guys are green. All these units are green, but the Dutch green multi-man counter do not suffer from inexperience penalties. So for all intents and purposes, these are simply 4-3-7 squads that can't ELR failure. You know, your ELR is going to be 3. If you fail ELR, nothing happens to these guys. They're just broken. So to be honest with you, the ELR really only applies to the leaders in this particular game, of which you have a decent array. So these guys will come on first. These tanks will come on as well. Wherever you want. Oh, God, I really wish they would fix that. Seriously. It's so annoying. But anyway. So what do the red movement factors mean, or movement points mean on the vehicles?
Roll 12 to start. I mean, if you roll 12, it won't start.
Right, mechanical reliability, right? And definitely always check and re-roll, read the vehicle notes on these specific vehicles, because certain vehicles have differences of their mechanical reliability. You know, I think I was reading one last night. I think the Panther, if you roll a 10, it stalls. If you roll an 11, something else happens. If you roll a 12, it's immobilized. So definitely, this is the prime scenario of read your vehicle notes, especially on this vehicle here. I posted it on the in the forum or in the wherever you want to call it. Whereas it's got this funky covered arc. It's got this sort of array where where this is the covered arc here in the front. So it can fire down this way and fire that way normally. And then you can rotate the gun to the right. You may not rotate it this way. So no covered arc is allowed on the Z6, Z5, or Y5, Z5 hex side. So if you take a direction, it may not fire. Where are my lines? Oh, it's down fire lane. It may not fire anywhere down there, nor may it fire down this direction. Those do not coincide with any of the covered arc that this vehicle may have. So this vehicle most likely is not going to be trudging on the map in this direction. Most of these times, these guys will probably be facing this direction most of the game, because it can't swivel its gun. It has to fire sort of in the front and to the right versus to the left. The left-hand side is NA for all intents and purposes. So that's another thing that you have to realize with this particular vehicle. And the info is just this port vehicle covered arc NA. So, it's interesting. It has very good armor, though. Very good armor. And again, doing your homework before the scenario starts, you have to know the capabilities of your vehicles. 2 armor. What's the circle signify on this on the 2? On this tank. What's the circle on the armor?
Inferior.
Inferior turret armor, right. So if you hit that thing in the turret, it's going to be a 1. If you hit it in the hull, it's going to be a 2. And it's a small target. So that's what we're looking at here. Armor on this vehicle, crap, 0s, but it's double circles. So double circles means what on this vehicle? If I'm firing to hit.
Very small.
Very small target, +2 to hit. If this thing is moving, anything you're firing at it is going to be +2 for moving, +2 for size target modifier at a minimum. At best, you're going to get a 6 to hit on this thing with just straight off the top at a range of 6. And then guess what? What do we have in PTO? That's plentiful.
Hindrances.
Tons of hindrances. These
Isn't
guys.
this one a +3 to hit?
What's that?
Isn't this a +3?
No.
I thought it. Okay.
No, it's why would you what makes you think it's a +3?
It said so in the notes when I read them.
+3 to hit. Huh.
Yeah, I think that's what I read. Have to go find it now.
All right. Yeah, if you could check it out, that'd be interesting, because it should have another circle beneath the ones.
Check your note on the left there, on the right. Steel.
In water. In water.
Ah, okay. Maybe that's what he.
Yeah, +3 target size and hold down in water. So that's the
Okay.
amphibious guy.
Okay.
So pretty
Yeah,
much only his
amphibious.
turret's sticking above the water. So that's why he's a triple size target. And he's hauled down, so you're never gonna. It doesn't really.
Or scenarios that use water.
Yeah.
Amphibious.
It's. I'm not sure when they're going to do that in SK, but the water's interesting, especially for amphibious vehicles. But yeah, that's a good catch. That's a good question. That's a good question. Like, because you're reading your notes, what does that mean? But it's +3 target size in water, and again, I'm not actually sure why that. A lot of times they just cut and paste shit from ASL, unless they have water. There's the water terrain that I know of in SK. Does that mean they're not going to add it later? I don't know. I don't know, but adding a note like this into a rule book that doesn't even actually have that terrain can just lead to confusion. They could just leave it out, and especially since they're digital now, they can just add it in later if necessary. But that's a good question. That's a good catch, because you at least you're reading the notes on that sort of thing. Same thing with reverse movement points. Of course, these are from the Vassal templates, but which is a very useful tool. So the other thing that we have to worry about, so these are just standardized, pretty much weak armor, very strong armor in the front for the hull on this vehicle. Now this monstrosity over here, which just looks like a battleship to me, has 26 movement points. Is there anything different for the movement points on this particular vehicle than the other Dutch vehicles? You have to look
I
super
don't
close.
recall.
So wheeled vehicles opposed to tracked.
Yeah, it's a wheeled vehicle. It's somewhat difficult to see on the counter. On the little thing on the right-hand side, you could see that it's got two boobs on that one instead of just a flat,
Yeah, I
flat
can't
butt.
see it on Vassal here.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. I'm not sure if the vehicle
If I blow it up.
yeah, the vehicle notes should identify it as a tracked vehicle. Well, theoretically, I haven't really checked it myself, to be honest. But that's a truck. So trucks, and that's why I posted up I think I posted the truck vehicle movement points. Trucks on anything but roads don't move very fast. I believe open ground is 4. I think palm trees might be 5. Kunai is like 6. So this vehicle, if it should happen to be here and start driving this way, this is 6, 12, 18, 24, and that's it. Essentially, it moves as far as the squad. And then in open ground, it's going to move about 6 hexes. 1 or 4, 8, 12, 16. I think that's 4. Let's call it 4, 20, 24. So it's moving about as fast as a squad or a leader. Keep that in mind. This moves about as fast as a squad or a leader. These move extremely fast, right? So the Japanese have to approach this game, okay, what fish can I chase and what fish can't I chase? Okay. The green units are just that. They're going to be supporting personnel, and they're in the game for. Did they all blot out? They sure did, didn't they? Oh, jeez, this Fazzle piece of shit. And so 8-1, 6 squads, and an LMG. These are just supporting personnels. These tanks would be flying on. Now, knowing what the Dutch have here. Turn 2, the Dutch get more infantry. All right. Turn 2, let's say these guys are, let's just, for shits and giggles, these guys are up here. At the end of the turn, they see extra, whatever. Well, maybe not that far. Let's say there's something like this. You could have them further, whatever. Let's look at the map. Now, although you guys have gotten tricky because you're using the ability of tanks to go through the woods, if you did not use the tanks to go through the woods, or the jungle rather, and the jungle might actually have a different modifier, but pretty much as a defender, what are you looking at in terms of the vehicles getting by you? You're looking at some gaps here, right? 3 hex gap, 1 hex gap, 1 hex gap. And this is just, vehicles going into the which is a viable option, which, to be honest with you, yeah, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. So we have some gaps to deal with. So we could fill those gaps easily because what do we have? We've got this entire array of units on the top. Okay. Oh my God. So I don't know how many leaders. You're like 25 leaders.
Ultimately, we have the INF AT and the medium machine gun as the main things that physically can stop them.
Right. Now let's take a look at what we got. All right. What are our anti-tank capabilities in this game? What can destroy AFEs in this game?
AT, INF, and medium machine.
Anything else?
Your squad can if you jump on them.
Right. Note, and this is where the scenario might give you a clue. How many squads do we have in this scenario?
Not enough.
Okay. How many leaders? How many leaders do we have in this scenario?
Quite a bit, actually. Japanese.
So we have a huge leader to squad ratio. Right? Huge leader to squad ratio. So to me, that got me thinking. It's like huge leader squad ratio, right? These guys don't even have any modifiers to fire at. Japanese really don't break. So what the hell do we have these leaders for? What can the leaders be used for in this scenario?
Movement.
And more importantly, what can the Japanese do?
Tank hunt.
They can bonsai. That gives them 8 movement. So instead of 6 movement, these 2 units by themselves can bonsai against a target. What target are they likely to pick? Well, the big points, right? These are the easy ones to pick off, and these are the ones that you might want to try to get as well. If they're in motion, then they'll be in motion. There's not much you can do about that. But we have 3 potential.
Risky. I didn't do it.
Run at you. So, and we have our mediums. Our medium can destroy a vehicle at a 6x range. What's the to kill number of either machine gun at a 6x range? Because you're not firing more than that, right? Because there's too many hindrances.
I think it was a 4.
Yeah, base 4 plus 1 for range. So yeah, they need a 5 to equal the to kill.
I've never managed it. I tried many times in this scenario.
Yeah, the 5's hard to roll. The 5's hard to roll. One thing about a 5 in this particular game, look at these vehicles here. What's the difference between all these vehicles?
Armor. Size.
Tell me about their turrets.
They're slow. Fixed. Slow turret.
We got one man's and the slow turret over here. What happens? What's the special consideration we take into one man's if we're trying to destroy it? Look at your AFE destruction table with machine guns.
Be a rear shot.
Let me see. Where's this to hit? To kill.
Where's that chart?
AFE destruction table, machine guns. Very, very key point here. Let me know if once you guys pop it up on Basel. It's under vehicle to kill AP. Scroll down. It's beneath the AP to kill table. So let me know how an AP machine gun destroys a tank. Do that a little smaller. All right. So what's a vehicle need to eliminate a machine gun need to eliminate an enemy vehicle? Remember, our base to kill is 4 plus 1 for range, because we're probably not going to be shooting at a range greater than 6. Or unless you're desperate. And if you're shooting at a range of 6, you're probably going to have too many hindrances anyway. So we're going to be shooting close. And if we're at a range of 0 to 1, that's a +2. So that's a slight advantage if we can get in that particular location. So if we roll less than the kill number, it eliminates the vehicle, right? Simple as that. So a 4 or less, we eliminate the vehicle. What happens if we roll equal to the to kill number? So a 5 or a 6 in this case.
Potential kill.
For a machine gun.
It's going to be a stun.
A stun. That's right. Correct. What happens to one-man turrets when they are stunned?
Recall.
They get recalled, which is essentially an elimination. That's essentially an elimination in this game. If you can roll a 5 on these guys, I'm not saying it's easy, but you do have rate of fire. You only have 2 machine guns, unfortunately. I wish they would have given you probably another light.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, and they're both breakdown 11, so they're not going to be around very long.
My opponent rushed me, and I ran out of tools.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's very difficult, and that's where the bonsai idea came in. Is maybe they can get close to them. So machine guns will do damage to the very fast vehicles on a 5. These guys over here are pretty slow. We could run them down with infantry. Now, unfortunately, he's got 8 firepower, but he's going to be spinning that thing when he's charging us. But again, let's take into consideration ROB. So machine guns are 5. Now, mortars. What can mortars do to AFVs?
We can't kill them.
And
Sure they can.
How do we attack an AFV with a mortar? Normal to hit procedure, right? Area fire, foop, you know, we shoot at the target, and we obtain a hit at the target. How do we destroy an AFV with a mortar? What do we look at? Do we look at the HE to kill table? Where?
Well, this one has an HE range of less than 3. I don't know if that's the starter kit. Probably not.
No, that's the range. No, that's the range. Rate of fire is 1 with the HE. Yeah. So, let's just assume you're firing at a range of 3 for whatever it's worth. So you're just going to shoot at. So you shoot at the tank with a mortar. How do we destroy it with a mortar? Well, the mortars aren't listed. You don't look at the HE. Mortars are resolved on the infantry fire table. So you've got your 50. You divide it by half because it could be area fire, and you're on the 2 chart. Okay. So the 2 chart, you roll like an infantry fire attack. And that's an 8. Let's say we roll a 5. Will that have an effect on an AFV? Let's determine if that's what the deal is. Let's look at the destruction for, let's look at Neil's charts. If he's hitting the Neil's AFV. Vehicle destruction. Okay. So it was resolved as indirect fire versus an AFV. So on the destruction table, you're not going to look at the MG to kill. You're not going to look at the bomb direct fire. You can look at the indirect fire. Okay, so the indirect fire is what we're going to look at. And so your, I have to double check. Oh, yeah, here we go. E. The E is the big part. Use original infantry fire table dice roll for hit location. So we're going to keep that in mind. So I rolled a 3 and a 2. So if we have to use that dice roll for a hit location, what part of the vehicle does it hit? If I rolled a 3 and a 2 on my resolution on the to kill. A 3 and a 2.
The hull?
It's going to hit the hull, right? It's going to hit the hull. So in this case, we could possibly immobilize it. What do we need to immobilize the vehicle with that dice roll? This is on the 2 column. It looks like crap, right? So less than or equal to less than the killed number, or the K, or the 1K CCV value. In this case, the K. If it's less than to kill number or equal, let's see, less than the K, which is really, this chart is really kind of stupid. I'm not sure why the K is up there half the time. So if we get the K, if we equal the K number, we are going to, yeah, that chart actually doesn't make sense for the indirect fire. If we equal the K number, it's going to immobilize this vehicle, right? So that means a 2 will be a result on that. And so what is that? 2. But if you look at the armor factors, and I don't think it has it on this table. Yeah, here it is. Nope. Oh, that's interesting. These are SK tables? I'm not sure if these are SK tables or not. SK tables might be different, because there are no unarmored vehicles in SK. Where's the kills?
You haven't found them yet, or even the indirect one. So
yeah. Damn it! Where's the kill charts on these charts? Special dice rolls. Not there. I need to kill nationality charts. Okay. AFV destruction table. That's the kill. That is area target type. Area target type is what it's listed in the SK charts versus indirect fire.
Oh, there it is.
So it's area target type. So the things we're looking at here is again, you use the position dice roll. Not the position dice roll, but you use the same thing with the hull. It's probably in the rules. They don't actually have that note here, which, yes, it does. Use original infantry fire table for hit location. Same note. Second note on the AFB destruction table in the SK rules. All armor factors less than or equal to 4. -1 to kill dice roll. Do all these vehicles have all of their armor factors less than 4?
Much less. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anytime a mortar tries to destroy one of these vehicles, it's going to add a -1 to its to kill dice roll. And if it should happen to be in woods, which they probably won't be, then it would you'd have the airburst on top of that. But let's assume it doesn't. So your dice roll is going to be a -1. Notice that on your area target type, HE 1 greater than the final to kill or K number is an immobilization and shock. Now on your 2 chart, how can we affect this unit? If we shock it, it's going to be in bad news. And if we immobilize it, it's not getting off. So if we, the HE 1 greater than final to kill. So if we fire on the 2 column, what do we need to immobilize these vehicles? Mobilize or shock these vehicles?
I was right about this. Cool.
What do you think the result would be, guys? You guys have to look at this as the Japanese. When you're playing the Japanese, you got to know what your tools are. Your tools, you have 2 mortars with a 2 rate of fire at a range of greater than 3. So you're firing on it, you achieve a hit somehow. Well, it's area target type, so it's not gonna be too bad. You hit it. How do I destroy the son of a bitch? We're gonna be the effect is still gonna be on the IFT because it's an area target type weapon.
No idea.
You need a 4.
I screwed this up.
Right? You need a 4. How'd you get a 4?
Well, the 4 minus the 1 gets a 3, which is 1 more than that K number.
Right. So which will immobilize or shock the vehicle? Immobilization is, well, either one is kind of what you like. Immobilization is a guaranteed you ain't getting off. The problem is it'll still have its machine guns firing at you. A shock will stop the vehicle, but he may be okay after a turn or 2 and rolling. That's where you have to swarm him with the infantry. But you may not have that ability because he does have lots of infantry coming on. So what we want to do is we actually want to immobilize these suckers. So a 4, not a great result, but that's all we got with the mortars. The mortars need 4s. The MGs need 6s at a 1 hex range, 5s at a range of 6 or less. So that's what we need to damage these suckers. Well, the zeros for primarily. The 2 armor tanks are a little bit more problematic. What do we have to deal with the 2 armor tanks? Well, we have the real big boys, the 37 and the infantry howitzer to deal with those. Where you set those up is up to you guys. I mean, I've seen lots of players play this, and the problem is this is a clear route, just one little bog roll, and he's getting off the board. Put an AT gun over there is problematic. If you put it over there, let's say you do put it over here, right?
I can tell you, I put the INF there.
Yeah,
and the only thing it did is he never went over there.
Yeah. Well, now the AT gun. Let's say it's over here, and let's say all of his tanks are coming this direction. What can we do with the AT gun? Can we do anything? Is the AT gun shit? Garbage. Throw it away.
Manhandle it.
Manhandle it. So in that case, you might want to have...
The AT gun was the best player in the game.
Right. Yeah, there you go. So when
it didn't have to move it, though. I had it over here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good spot. That's a big pile of kunai. So what you could do is you could start, because they'll be concealed as well. The Japanese will be concealed. You could start with this guy here, a leader, a squad, because you probably don't have extra squads. In this location here, maybe, or just the squad, up to you. But at this point, if this is insurance, if he comes this way, you've got a squad that could charge him, and then you've got the AT gun could fire at him. If he goes this way, then you can instantly manhandle this weapon in the movement phase, and you can move him you could double time this unit. And remember, it's an M12, so it's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8. Or 2, 4, 6, 8. You could at least move him a little bit closer to the action. You still have the gun shield on the AT gun. So the +2 emplacement will be gone, but the gun shield will be there to protect the crew. You don't really care about that too much. He has 8 morale. He can, you know, again, this is the next part. I'm not sure why that even did that. So this is the next part of the Japanese sort of idea is as the Japanese, we're going to charge these tanks, right? I mean, the idea is if these tanks show up, we need to go kill them. How do we go kill them? We get close to them. You can do it a number of ways. You can move adjacent to them and then jump them into close combat in the advanced phase, or you can bonsai after them. Either one you want. Now, if we bonsai after them, let's say this were the case here, and all these guys are somewhere else, you know, we're going to bonsai this leader. He's here, and say, I'm going to go get him. We move here, and he shoots at us, right? So in the bonsai, what's the benefit of the bonsai attack?
Morale goes up 1.
Morale goes up 1, huge. So we got a 9 and an 8. And what are the machine guns that we have here? Not much. 4, you know, it's respectable. 8's really crazy. You want to definitely bonsai this guy on the side. The 8 might do some damage to you. And they have rate of fires. And so a 9 and an 8 morale, we only need 1 unit. Let's say he fires at us right there. Okay, he gets here. Let's say he held his fire. He fires 8 minus 1. We break. What happens?
Clip.
You're still good. You just reduced.
You stripe.
Right. No, where is the... This guy will wound, and this guy will strike. Okay, let's say the leader couldn't make it in close combat. Or let's say he does. Let's say we started here, we went 1, he striped us, and he broke us. 1, 2, 3. Let's say we started here. 1, 2, 3. Even if he wounds us, we can make it there. Okay? We engage him in close combat at the end of the round. Did we lose any firepower? Did our close combat value change? That's the question you have to ask. So, what would be the close combat value of this 447 and this 80 if they don't break or stripe?
5.
Right, 5, right?
5.
And then
it was 5.
And then in close combat, I think they might... Do they increase in value? The Japanese increase in value in close combat versus tanks or just versus infantry? Just versus infantry, I think.
I don't think it's with vehicles and SK, but I don't know SK well at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to check the Japanese on that one there. So, let's doesn't even have it there. Lower stacked wire. It doesn't have it on here, so we'd have to check it. So it might say in close combat, and if it says in close combat, this is close combat. So it may or may not apply. Let's just go with the base. Let's assume it doesn't apply at all. So our close combat value with this unit is base 4, a base 4 for the unit here, and then you could add 1 from the leader to make it a 5. Right? Not too bad, not too shabby. What's the close combat value of this unit?
4. 3 plus 1.
What's the base value of this?
3 if I can read it right.
In close combat value.
5.
The CCV. The CCV here remains the same. Oh, yeah, you're right. 5. My bad. This one was 5 up here. This is 6. 5 plus 1 is 6. This is 5 as well because it's not a half squad, correct?
Yes.
It's not a half squad. So he's still 5. And this 7 plus 1 leader still gives you 1. Still makes it 6. Exactly the same close combat value because you don't have to add the leadership modifier in close combat. 6, 6. And we got striped. So right there, it makes sense. They stack a whole bunch of stupid leaders with 7 squads. Because, I mean, why do you need so many leaders with those squads? Well, you need them to chase tanks all damn game. And if he stripes, right? Let's say the leader didn't stripe, and which is important. The leader is what we really want not to stripe. He could stripe, right? And let's say we charge another one, and then we fail another morale check, right? He's not broken like everybody else. You have to use the Japanese abilities. He's not broken like everybody. He's a half squad. He still gets there. He's still getting to you on the tank. That's what the infantry are for. To make sure you don't get there, because they could fire, first fire, subsequent fire, a whole 9 yards. get to the tanks as best you can. Not saying it's going to be easy, but I'm saying that this is another anti-tank. This is a 6 to kill. These are pretty good to kill. The AT gun, the infantry gun, howitzers are pretty good. The mortars are 5s. Did we say 5s? 5s, yeah. And these are 5s or 6s. So we got, these are your best anti-tank of all your support weapons are your infantry with a leader. Assuming the stealthy doesn't apply, the -1 in close combat. If that applies to the close combat table, then it's not a close combat. I'll have to check that. I'll double check that for you guys.
Assume they pass their Patsy too.
Right. They might be immune to Patsy if they're in Berserk, if they're Bonsai.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
Yeah,
So.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is, even though you're going to get shot at, you're not going to break like everybody else. If these units are charging these Japanese units and he gets shot at and he fails his morale check, he's broken. He's done. He's done for the day. And then he goes back and, you know, has some milk and cookies and gets back up and tries it again. The Japanese do not stop. Use that ability to make sure that you can get to your destination where you want to kill stuff. You can use that against infantry, or whatever. Plus, you know their effectiveness in infantry. If this unit gets on top of it, a half squad, a little less effective, has a base close combat value of 3, but the leader will add his firepower to it as well. So it's a 4. Not as good as a 6, but a 4. I mean, if that's all we have to roll, I mean, it can't be 7s because then all these tanks would be gone the first turn, to be honest with you. So definitely something that you can use. The infantry, okay, so let's say we do a good job on most of his tanks. Can the Dutch win with getting the infantry off? These guys come on turn 2. And this is a 1, 2, 3, 4. These guys have 4 turns to make it off. And how many points do we need off in this one?
I can, but gotta go perfectly.
Right. So these guys are definitely going to be a tough time getting off. They do have leaders. These guys could be escorting infantry. So if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they could potentially get up here 1 turn. But then you still have Japanese. You get machine guns, stuff like that. And if they break, they're probably not going to rally back because if they break,
infantry are fairly easy to take care of.
Yeah, and look at their open ground, right? Are they going through here? Do they go through this open ground? Whatever. So it might be tricky. So again, those are our anti-tank capabilities in this particular game. Now defensively, Craig pointed this out. These are huts, right? So huts are hindrances. Is this a hut? X8, Y8.
No.
Z9 a hut.
Yes.
I5 a hut.
No.
No.
Nope, because it's part of a multi-hex building. Not a hut, not a hut. Is this a hut? I8.
Yes.
Yep.
It does.
No.
It only has 1 building depiction. That's a wooden building.
Oh, you're right.
So it's tricky. Don't get tricked by it. So these are huts. Now let's assume, where do we want to be for the Japanese? Obviously, you know, the huts are +1 terrain, +2 terrain's better, you know, but these are kind of like off the beaten path. If the game's back here, it's going pretty rough anyway. But this is an okay building. Huts, okay, +1 building and huts, better than this, right? What's the problem we have with huts in this game?
They're just hindrances.
Defensively, how are they a detriment to the Japanese?
They collapse.
They collapse. Anytime a vehicle drives into that thing, it collapses and people get pinned, and then he keeps driving. So read up on your collapsed huts, because they will be destroyed. And I'm pretty sure those are in SK rules. I think those are in there. So these could just be driven through by the tanks, and it will eliminate that +1 modifier. I think it eliminates the +1 modifier. The hindrance remains, but I think the +1 modifier is taken away. But the other thing is you're pinned. So if the tank is here, let's say you got a mortar, machine gun, or whatever like that, and a 10-80 leader or something like that, and you got these infantry in the back. This guy drives through because you got decent armor, right? Decent armor. Boom, blow that hut up. Keep going, or stop, or do whatever you want. We just keep going. He's now has a potential of being pinned. And when you're pinned, you don't get very effective use of your weapons. They're all going to be having. These guys can approach much more easily. Maybe even so in the open ground. And have a chance to get you. Open ground's still pretty good. And he still could final productive fire with a 7 on the roll. But because if he breaks, he just gets step reduced.
So, Stu, if there's just a 447 in this hut, this guy could drive by and not get shot at?
Correct.
Okay.
He has to have some sort of something to fire at him. Now, he could chase him down.
Uh-huh.
If he could bonsai with the leader, he could chase him down. Or, if that's where this tank stopped, he assault moves here and advance phases in here after the patsy.
Okay.
And tries to kill you that way. So, I think this is a weird scenario, and just in terms of, because I saw the 3 leaders, and that really surprised me. Because the Dutch have 4 leaders, but they have 15 units. You know? The Japanese have 3 for 7. That's a 1-to-2 ratio. That's pretty damn high. So, the only thing that comes to mind is...
I completely forgot about it in this one.
Yeah, the only thing that comes to mind is mobility. If anything, just run your guys around. I mean, that's one thing they could do, right? And because they stripe, and if that's the only thing you remember, run them and stripe them, and that might be extremely effective, because you're still going to get to your target. And that's the key thing, I think, with the Japanese is you're going to get to the target. You know, if he's got a tank here by himself, I mean, if he changes a covered arc, we love that, because he's not going to affect it. It's going to be a +2 on that. So if this unit assault moves here and he changes covered arc, fires at us, let's say he gets a result, we don't care. You know, we're same as effective in close combat. And then he's going to move. These guys are fast. These guys are going to be the problem because they're very fast, and he can just win with those. So those are going to be very difficult to deal with. And if they just run them by, it's kind of meh. And that's where I think your infantry gun. You know, can he survive 5 or 10 shots of 4 or 5? Yeah, he might. You know, that the hit's pretty decent. I mean, you'd probably need 7s to hit most of them when they're moving. You know, to 6x range. They're all pretty much +1. One guy's +2. But it could be tricky. It could be tricky to run them down. And when they're in motion, they're more difficult to kill in close combat as well. So it's a tricky scenario, but you have to take advantage of everything you have as the Japanese. You've got 2 mortars. You've got 2 machine guns. I wish they gave you more. But rate of fire. 2 medium machine gun rate of fire 2. I fire once, boom. One third of the time I get to fire again, and sometimes that could be helpful.
So Stu, if let's say this guy was down here, and he's moving towards this guy, and let's say he survives all the shots or whatnot, and he goes in here and takes a bog check, does that mean that the Japanese cannot fire at any more vehicles moving by?
Yep, he's locked up.
Okay.
He's the enemy unit 6.
Okay.
But
thanks.
The Japanese love that, because if he gets bogged, that tank's probably going to be destroyed. Why is that tank probably going to be destroyed if he bogs in this hex?
Because killing a vehicle with infantry is not that hard.
Right. And he's bogged, which is he's immobile, so you get another -1.
Right. I figure it's a sacrifice, but I was just wondering if you could do that, and then other people.
You could do that. And again, when these vehicles, if they malfunction their machine guns, you definitely want to jump on those sons of bitches. Why? Because it's another -1 in close combat. No functioning machine guns. They break down 11. They have no other weapons but their main armaments. That is it. Once they break, that's another -1 to your guys. That means it's a 7 if they're stopped and you have a leader and a squad jump him. A 7 for a destruction. That's pretty good. But the machine guns themselves, if they roll 5s against the 1-man turrets, they're stunned, they're recalled, they're gone. Those will be gone. That's the beauty of the 1-man turrets, and they're very, especially the 0s. I learned that last year, where I stunned a guy that was bogged and stuff like that. So it's they happened to jump out, but stunning a 1-man turret like that is very effective. Essentially, it will eliminate the vehicle from the course of play. So which is effective. The big battleships that are easier to hit, slow moving. Yeah, they got the firepower though. 8 firepower, you know, rolling 16, he could actually just vaporize your unit. So be careful with those 26s. They're going to be moving slower. So you could pick them off a little bit later if you need to. And you can charge them with a lot more units. So be careful with those 8s when you're up against them. The other guys, especially, now these guys, right? This guy. Where are we going to attack that tank? This tank comes right here. How are we going to attack that tank? How are we going to, what direction are we going to come to attack this tank?
With what?
Anything. I'm charging this unit here, Adam.
From the side.
You're picking from the side. Yeah. You're picking here, here, here. You're coming this way. He can't fire on you. And then you just jump him for free. He can't do anything to you. The only thing you can do is change his covered arc, and that's not going to do much anyway. And then you just go here. Change covered arc, fire, no effect. We just move here in case he wants to sustain. And then blindside him. He has a blind side. Take advantage of it. And how do you take advantage of that? You could CX. Well, you probably don't want to CX because you don't want to do the CX. You've got 6 movement factors with a leader. You might be able to get to him with a blind side. Like that right here. 2, well, in this case, you might have to do double time because you can't bypass. 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, yep, 6, 7, yeah, you might have double time. But if he was here, you got 2, 3, 4, 5. And then he'd have to change his covered arc. Take advantage of his blind side. So, but they're fast, the best armor, but they do have an Achilles heel on these guys here. Definitely. Not saying the scenario is easy, but you've got to use all the tools that you have, and you still may not win, right? You still may not win. It's just rolling dice at that point. That's that's the one thing with AFVs that I'm not a big fan of. I mean, it's just a matter of who lows. If I hit you, and the early war, I like it better because you have a chance of surviving. But standard tanks, it's whoever rolls. They're 5 to hit first, destroys. So here,
I didn't use all my tools, and it came down to last turn, basically.
Nice.
But, I mean, he had some bad luck. I mean, he bogged a tank, too, and a couple times they wouldn't start, which helped me.
Oh, nice. That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
And he completely avoided this side because he was terrified of the INF.
Oh,
so,
wow. Yep. Yeah.
And then I let one go by because I didn't want to risk losing my gun. I just said, screw it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to intensive fire. And then after that, he never used that side.
Yeah.
Which I was surprised by. But
yeah, and that's the key, right? Scott didn't want to intensify fire his gun to break it. As soon as the gun's broken, the tanks just fly on by. The gates are open. Just don't intensify fire, if it makes a big difference. But in that case, the guy happened, he fired, he missed. Let him go by. We'll get the next one.
It isn't fired over here, but that was at the end of the game, and if I didn't, I'd just lose.
Yeah.
And it paid off. I got 3 in, I think, 1 turn.
Wow, that's pretty good. Wow, for 1 turn?
Jeez. I don't remember. It was significant, but not enough.
Yeah.
He ran out of shots, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of guys intensify fire more than they need to, and they end up with a lot of vehicles with no main armaments during the middle of the game, and or during the beginning of the game instead of late in the game. And
that was like turn 2, and I couldn't risk losing one of my 2 main tools.
All right. Yeah, definitely. And these are the big boys, right? They stop the fast tanks flowing, and they're hard to hit. They are definitely hard to hit. This +2 zipping by you, man. That thing is.
Yeah, they weren't easy to hit, but
I wish they would have given you like an AA gun or something like that with a swivel instead of the non-turreted. If they make you switch directions, it's still +3. That's going to be really hard to hit. Because if you change covered arc, even if this AT gun here has to change covered arc to fire on this vehicle, let's say it's 1 hex side here, that's going to be a 7 to hit straight off the top. If this thing is moving, that's just a thought 7 to hit, and it's going to be hard to hit. You're just hoping for rate of fire at that point, and then taking the next shot.
I'm curious to see where the others put their guns. So
Yeah. Again, I have 2 logs. I think yours is one of them. I think another one is from the Russian ASL group. So hopefully some other guys are doing this one because I'd like to have more than just 2, simply because of that fact. Because the gun placement, it will be interesting to see on how people set up their defenses.
yeah, because Gabe said he would like to put one there, and I didn't.
Me and Eric got a game going. We'll get that one to you in a day or two.
Okay, cool.
And where did you read that vehicle can't shoot out a certain side? I got to find that.
In the vehicle notes.
Right, I'm looking at the Dutch notes.
Should be right here.
It just talks about how many vehicles they bought and how many they used, and the Japanese captured so many.
That's the expansion pack 2, right?
Well, I'm looking at the ASL rules, page H137.
They might have added a starter kit, which is be rare.
Yeah, the vehicle. It is a CTLS
Alloyed liner.
4. CTLS-4. CTLS-4. Let's see where that might be in the ASL.
H137. Oh no, that's the American version.
These are Dutch.
It says Dutch vehicle notes.
No, I just said CTLS 4A, which is
at
least one. I don't know if there's another one. Does that have an A on it? Oh, they always take the name off it. It's probably on that one, Stu.
What's that?
So it's H. Where did it go?
Left.
H137. It's the last thing. The CMG may not fire a target lies within the port side of the CMG.
Oh yeah.
Vehicle.
Yep. Allied note A and V. It's probably V. Yep.
Here it is.
No A.
I pasted A and V. Okay.
But yeah, let's see.
Of course, the most important thing is very at the bottom, like a side note.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the time.
Meanwhile, the history's up there.
Oh yeah, the 15 pages of history. Yeah, I mean, across that one traversing. So, see accompanying diagram and example. Oh, this is at the top right of 137. I actually like the image of the starter kit one better. It has it shaded over.
Okay.
It's the exact same image, but they have the area shaded, and it shows you a little bit better areas where you can't attack instead of just just that one hex.
Sure, we screwed that up in our game probably once at least.
Yeah. So
I'd even know it.
Yeah. To be honest, I think the SK image is much better. It gives you more information at a glance. Yeah, that's the hardest thing about a lot of the British stuff is, it seems like half their vehicles have weird covered arcs like that, and early American stuff might have that as well. But yeah, in this case, in this particular scenario, it can make a big difference, right? Because you can approach from that one side, and you'll be safe. Maybe the infantry have to protect those vehicles from that one side. Don't know. Depends on how you play it. So.
Yeah, I didn't even consider the bonsai for some reason, even though almost every scenario I try to do it in.
Yeah, maybe because you're attackers.
Maybe last time I did it because I got burned so hard, but
yeah,
because I couldn't get my units next to his vehicles was my problem.
Yeah. So a lot of people, maybe if they played the Japanese, the defenders, maybe they don't realize the bonsai is good. And what's the best thing about the Japanese in close combat? Well, they're probably going to kill you. I mean, they're just probably going to hand-to-hand combat -1. It's like a -3 on the dice roll straight up right there. You're probably going to die.
I stood up pretty far forward, and he drove past me.
Yeah, he just drove right by you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll check that out. We'll check that out in a bit. So hopefully we'll get some more of these out. I wouldn't mind trying this one as either side. I just think it's tough. It just looks odd, and because it looks odd, because your games look, I think your game is the one I saw. It just looked like you just blew by you. It's like, okay, there's got to be something I'm missing here. There's got to be something I'm missing.
Well, bonsai is one of them for sure.
Yeah, and again, that's
more than one. I didn't even. I mean, despite how many games I've played, I've never seen I forgot about the indirect mortar fire potential. I mean, chance of it actually doing anything are low, but
Yeah.
the mortars have. I mean, mine broke early, but
Yeah.
they were useless in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely useless.
Little rate of fire if you get lucky on a tear. I was watching another the replay, which we'll go over.
Medium was good.
And I think the VCL. I think I saw the Japanese attack a VCL. They were bonsaiing after him, and the VCL actually got rate of fire like 3 or 4 times and just shredded all the Japanese. Rate of fire 1, he got like 3 or 4 shots. So anything can happen. He's rolling low, obviously.
The Japanese will need to bonsai if they want to get on the tank.
Yeah, yeah.
That just wasn't close enough ever.
Yeah, and again, the extra added morale factor allows you to get there without, and you can't get pinned, so they're not pinning you on the way there. So you're getting to the destination. It's just
it's a good idea.
Yeah, it's just a matter how much you can get. You're still going to have to roll up low. If he's in motion, it's going to be low. You're going to have to roll a 4 with a leader and a squad. But again, you do that, and then he takes off, and then you chase after the next tank. That might be close. I mean, you may not be able to catch them all, but
They'll have to catch them all.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully whoever gets past you, the AT gun, the infantry gun handle, or whatever the case may be. So interesting game. All right, Michael, take care, Mike. And it's a very interesting little game, but it's tough. I think it's tough. You have to take a lot of things into consideration. The huts might be one of them if the tanks want to pin some of the guys down, so their infantry can get past some of those units. Right? If you got good units, stack of units in H9. Right, and you want some infantry to come this way, well, drive a tank into that location, they'll automatically pin, and they won't be able to get rate of fire. They'll be half firepower, so it reduces their defensive capabilities as you drive on by. And that's something to consider.
Because they don't need to do that to win, so.
Right. But, whatever the situation might
be. What people choose to do. Gabe decided just to gun it. Cost that.
Yeah, that's an option. There are lots of vehicles, and they're worth a lot. You only need 3 off. So I'm not sure if the VP are pretty low, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I wanted to kind of give just a synopsis of exactly sort of at least what I see, and maybe you guys see something else that we may not have taken into consideration. Definitely share that. But for both sides, there's things to look at. The movement factors, the red movement rates. On the vehicles can be a problem. I mean, it's probably not going to be too much of a problem, but you never know. The special rule with you having to roll to actually move. The blind side of your vehicle, you may have to protect at times, or the Japanese could possibly take advantage of them.
Yeah, the red numbers shouldn't matter at all because you got to roll so low anyway.
Yeah, but the vehicle's startup of the SSR is what got Gabe and ours. At least stopped him 3 times.
Yeah.
Which is the only reason he probably didn't blow me out of the water.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then just you trying to use all your tools in your OB as best as possible. Again, like you said, the infantry are going to have a tough time getting off. Don't bother firing at the infantry. The infantry are a secondary target. Tanks are the primary targets. Don't fire your medium machine guns, your light machine guns, your mortars. Don't fire any of that at infantry. If there's a tank nearby that's going to be driving by, do not fire at the infantry. You can't afford to, because your to-kill ratios against the tanks is so low, you can't have one shot. You can't rely on one shot. If you break one infantry unit, so what? A tank's worth 2.5. The infantry are irrelevant. You could kill the infantry later at a late bonsai. All of his infantry are going to be destroyed, and if not, be in close combat for the rest of the game. They're not getting off in 4 turns if you're going to bonsai them. So you always have that option available. Support weapons, only infantry. Only vehicles. Only the vehicles. That you can't.
One of my ASL goals is to kill a vehicle with a machine gun. I've never done it.
Oh yeah.
Tried it many times.
You got to play early war. You got to play a scenario like 30 times. You'll get one.
I secure hits. I rarely get the low numbers. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. But yeah, that's what I got on this one, guys. Take that information. If you're interested in this scenario, if you need a scenario card, we can get that to you so you can play it. So we can have this on there and so on and so forth. So I don't want people's lack of the security guard. Just ask somebody else. They'll have it, or they can get it, or what have you. And just try it. You know, read through the Japanese rules if you haven't done Japanese before. Read it. If you like the armor, go for it. Just learn it. I mean, you put it out here, and even if you botch the scenario, it doesn't matter. We're gonna hopefully have 3 or 4 of them, and we can learn a lot from what's going to go on here. So there's just a lot of stuff going on, and it's actually kind of a big scenario, even though it's like 4.5 turns. You've got a lot of units to move, a lot of things to consider, a lot of target selection choices in this game, and how to get there. And I see some people, not just SK. I haven't seen a lot of SK Japanese play, but I see a lot of ASLers use the Japanese as if they're Russians. You know, for just general 447s. They sure they got the close combat stuff, but you know, I rarely see a lot of bonsais, and you know, there's times and places to bonsai, and they can be a very, very good tool. 8 movement factors is get your guys way across the board, and you can use that to your advantage, and because you're not stopping, because the step reduced doesn't matter, they're still going. You know, if they have to exit, you know, they still go. You're not going to stop them. They're not going to break. Excuse me. So that's about all I have. If you guys have any more comments on this one, or maybe comments on something else that we can go over, if something right here generated some comments, then that would be pretty cool. Again, probably a heaviest scenario. I kind of want to throw it in there just to change things up a little bit, and to get people outside their comfort zones, and sometimes when you get outside your comfort zone, you stretch that, you know, what tools you have to use to affect a fun and interesting game, and you know, that's where we could learn, by playing with stuff we haven't played with before, you know. So, but if you don't have anything else, guys, then that's about all I have. So I really like the idea of this particular scenario. It's just it can be tough to execute. I don't know where to put my Japanese units if I were setting up the Japanese. I'd have to look at it. And I would definitely, if you're playing the Japanese and you're defending, flip the map around. You know, make him attack top to bottom, because if you're defending, you could probably see it better from your side. You know, the attacker side, you can see basically where he can go, but if you flip the map around, you might have a better perspective on how to defend a little better. That's what I do. I always have it facing my direction, the direction that as a defender, as if you're like sitting down face to face. I find it hard to attack down or defend in this sort of situation. It's perspective. So, all right, gentlemen, with that, that's about all I got, and we'll just end it here, if that's okay.
Thanks again.
All right.
Thanks so much, Stu.
All
See you
right,
next
take care.
week.
Yeah, thanks for showing up, guys. And we'll take it easy. Next week should be the ASL recon. You guys are definitely going to be playing or invited to that, because it's essentially SK. So there's not much more different than that game than other games, to be honest with you. This game has less rules than the ASL recon game. So don't feel intimidated that if you don't play ASL that you can't come and learn something. Again, because this scenario here that we talked about, which is an SK scenario, has a lot more going on than the scenario that we're going to cover, and that's the way I'm going to try and keep it for the first couple months. Is we're going to introduce certain smaller concepts, smaller scale, and I'm not going to be throwing something like this in here with the ASL. We have to think about 8,000 different things. It's just not. There's no point to that. But anyway, definitely do that. I'll post some stuff later on with regards to that being done. All right. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.